How about some vegetable soup? I've just added a bag of mixed vegetables. I'm gonna see what other vegetables I can find to put into this. And we're gonna let it cook for a few minutes and then we'll put it in jars. How about some black-eyed peas? Let's stir those in. And some carrots. Stir that in. I've also got some green beans. I know there's already some green beans, but I'm going to add some more. Normally I like to add corn, but I forgot to buy corn today, so this batch is going to be not as much corn in it. Now, how to know how much? Honestly, it's just a guessing game. Depends on how much juice you have and how thick you want your vegetables. But when you're stirring them, you want to feel a good bit of vegetables in there because we want to have plenty of vegetables in with our soup when we're canning it. I feel like that's about all I need, so I'm going to stop with that. Got my eye turned on, and I want this to heat up before I put it into my warm, sterilized jars. So a couple of other things you can add to your vegetable soup are potatoes. These are just russet potatoes that I have peeled and sliced, chopped up into chunks. And you can also add a couple of onions to your vegetable soup. We're going to let those potatoes cook a few minutes, and then we can start putting it into jars. Now, once your vegetables have cooked, it's time to load them up in the jars. So take your dipper and carry it over to the jar and just pour it in. There is a little bit of it's not really a scientific method, but you just kind of have to watch and notice how many vegetables you're adding to the jar versus how much juice you have in the jar. You don't want to overdo the vegetables or have too many vegetables and not enough liquid. So you might have to take kind of a dip full of liquid and add it to your jar. Let's put one more spoonful. I think that should get this one filled. You don't want to open up a jar that's mostly tomato juice when you're hoping to have some good vegetables. So just make sure that you kind of get the ratio of liquid to vegetables pretty good. I will be putting 1 teaspoon of salt in every jar. And then these will be cooked in the pressure canner for 45 minutes. And then they'll be ready to store until you're ready to eat them. So let me finish up these jars. Got several more sitting out here. We'll see how many it fills. And we'll be back to finish up. Okay, I've got all the soup in jars. That one could have used a little more vegetables. It was the last one, so it was kind of the bottom of the barrel of the vegetables, but all the rest look really good. Now, the next thing you need to do is take a rag and put a little bit of vinegar on your rag and go around the jars, cleaning off all your jars. You don't want any debris of any kind on the rim because it'll keep the jar from sealing. And we're going to clean them all off. Then you're going to take your lids. I've got lids and rings. Here's the lids that we use. These are ball. I like to use ball lids as much as possible. And then these are the rings. You're going to put a ring on it right here. And we'll tighten it up. Notice how I've left some what they call head space in each jar. I always fill the jars up close to the neck of the jar. That's as far as you want to go. It needs a little bit of room for movement in there. You just need to leave a little bit of space for when the food processes. We are going to cook these in a canner. It's like a pressure cooker, the kind that you cook your roasts in on the stovetop. This is a canner. I need to turn that eye on. Okay, so what we're going to do is put about 2 quarts of water. You can't see it good, but there's about 2 quarts of water in the bottom of this canner. I'm going to put the lids and rings on these jars, and then I'm going to bring them over here to this canner. I think I can get 7 jars in here at a time, and then they have to process for 45 minutes. We'll talk more about the canner and using it in just a few minutes after I've got all these jars into the canner. All my jars are loaded except for this one. I just wanted to say that you know, canning soup is not hard, and having some vegetable soup on hand is a good thing to have, because you may want to have just a vegetable soup night. Maybe you could cook a pound of ground beef and make it beef soup. That's a really good hearty meal. Or maybe have some cornbread and vegetable soup, or grilled cheese and vegetable soup. Those are some good meals, and when it's cold outside and you've got a good hearty vegetable soup, that just makes you feel good all over. So I'm gonna put in my last jar. So I've got these 7 jars in my canner. So I'm going to put the lid on the canner, and what's gonna happen is the eye is on, and the water that's down the bottom of this canner is going to start causing steam to build. And when the steam starts to escape from the top of this canner, then I'll know that it's time to put this little thing on the top. It keeps this pressure or the steam inside while it cooks. This is going to go, from the time I put this little thing on the top, it's going to cook for 45 minutes. And what is happening is the food inside of these jars are cooking. Those potatoes are not done yet. So I need them to cook some more so that whenever I do open a jar, all the vegetables are ready to eat. So I needed that to happen, and I need these jars to seal. I need the air pulled out, but all the soup and the juice left into the jar so that I can put it on my shelf and preserve it for some months ahead. So I'm going to need 2 hands to put my lid on, so we'll be back in a little while. I'm not sure if you can see it, but there was steam escaping from here. And when I see that steam, it means it's time for me to put this right on there so that the steam won't escape. This button right here, the little red button, was down, and when it pops up, it means that it's steamed, it's come up to pressure on the inside, and it's cooking, and the lid will not open until that red dot goes down. And the only way that's going to happen is after 45 minutes after it's cooked. I'm going to set this canner off the eye and let it cool, and as soon as it gets cool enough, that red dot will pop down, and it will then allow me to open the lid. So pressure cooking is not hard. It's not something to be scared of. Especially today with the pressure cookers of today, they're very safe. So I'm gonna let this one cook now for 45 minutes so my vegetable soup can get cooked on the inside and processed in those jars so that I can store them and save them for some cold winter nights for dinner.